Mock Draft Roundup 10.0. We are 10 deep and we are shining. Let's just see how this goes. So far, the last mock draft we did was pretty damn good. Well, yeah, not we did. The last mock draft roundup was pretty good. It wasn't bad. Like, the picks were pretty decent. There wasn't any outlandish picks. Through the first 9, mock draft roundups, been a lot of wild, wacky picks. I will say that last one was pretty good. So this one has some good energy going into it. Will Johnson from Michigan. I don't really mind that one at all. We'll see how where Will Johnson ends up going. What we saw was, it wasn't last draft. I think it was 2 drafts ago with the Emmanuel Forbes draft, the Christian Gonzalez draft. We thought that like 1000% Christian Gonzalez would be going to be a top 10 pick. We thought Emmanuel Forbes, obviously he ends up being bust, but we thought he was going to be like a top 10 pick or top 15 pick. And it ends up being that we don't get any cornerback selected until I think Emmanuel Forbes to the Commanders at 18. So, or maybe it was Christian Gonzalez to the Patriots at 18. But yeah, so we didn't get any player off the board until like later on. So it's very possible. Corners are a weird position. Sometimes they can go top 10. Sometimes they can get projected top 10 all the way up to the draft. And then randomly, they just go top 15, top 20 because other players, end up getting selected that people don't expect. So that's very possible. Or people trade up and get somebody else. Safety from South Carolina, Nick. I still will say I want Starks. If we go safety, I want Starks from Georgia. But if he's on the board, obviously, I would probably go defensive lineman or edge rusher personally, or defensive tackle. Probably not D-tackle, actually. Probably edge rusher or defensive lineman personally. I could also go linebacker as well. It's kind of like Starks, or I don't want a safety in the first round. Again, definitely after the first round, let's be honest. But for first round, I'm going to go either safety, Starks, or just go defensive lineman, edge rusher, or linebacker. Tyler Booker from Alabama. I would not mind this, honestly. I still think he would probably end up being a second round guy in the end. I don't think he'll be a first round. He'll be a late first, early second. But again, we do need offensive line help. Obviously, we need, to see. Here's what I'll say about it, right? Cordell Volson, I'm still trying my best. I've seen a lot of people comment this, and I'm trying my best here to hold out hope for Cordell Volson. And I'm at a point where I'm saying he's not a bust. And the reason why is because I believe in Scott Peters, and I believe Frank Pollock was that damn bad. And I think Scott Peters, with working with Cordell Volson one-on-one here, I think it's potential he could make Cordell Volson at least a average guard in the NFL. So I'm holding out hope that happens. Obviously, you still need a plan B, plan A, plan B. Now, if we obviously sign somebody who's better than Cordell Volson, that's the best scenario possible, because then we don't have to rely on Cordell Volson. Cordell Volson could be a backup, can develop as a backup behind whoever we sign and we start, and then they can get better and better. The question is, will they start a rookie over Cordell Volson? That's a good question. So it's one of those situations of, will they, go with the proven guy, or will they go with the backup? Now, last year they did bench Cordell Volson for Cody Ford. So again, everything is up in the air. You never know with Cincinnati. Edge rusher Mike Green. Okay, from Marshall. Don't mind that one. Walter Nolan, defensive lineman. From Ole Miss. We got edge rusher Samar Stewart. And we got edge rusher Donovan. Not something we have talked about many times. Don't mind it too much. And that is it. So, to be honest, I'm not really against any of these picks, in all honesty. The safety from South Carolina, maybe. I'm not against it, but I would have to look more into him in order to really get my, further opinion on the guy. But I will say, across the board, not a bad mock draft roundup. These are back-to-back pretty good mock draft roundups. Again, no tight ends picked in the first round, which I really like and I think is the smartest. No running backs picked in the first round, which, again, very smart. No wide receivers either. And I think those are the 3 positions that we kept seeing put in the first round for us. And, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to take a tight end. There's just no human reason possible. We're not going to take a, a wide receiver. Again, we do have Yoshi as our wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Williams. Hopefully Jermaine Burton gets his head off his butt, but we'll see how that figured out. And then going down the docket, like tight end, right now we have 4 tight ends on the roster. But again, realistically speaking, as I've said many times, Mike Gesicki's a wide receiver 3. But again, he's still, I just don't think we are going to go out there and spend a first round pick on a tight end. Possible, I guess, but the 2 guys are Tyler Warren and Loveland, and I just don't think we're going to go for either guy. I think we're going to go defense or, again, yes, potentially guard or tackle, move them to guard. But I think realistically speaking, it's just going to be defense. So, again, the Bengals have, this is the thing, right? And we do this every single year going into draft. We all have a player that we love, right? And if you go throughout the last couple years of this channel, you can see there's always a player that, as a general consensus, I feel like the whole channel comes together and says, that's the guy we love. That's the guy we want. That's the guy who is the guy, right? And in the end, when we do that, I feel like we fall in love with one guy, and the Bengals have a big board. And their big board might not consist of any of the guys we even talk about, or they might consist of them, but they're way down the board. Like when we wanted Michael Mayer, the Bengals were not interested in Michael Mayer at all. Zach Taylor came out after the draft and said Michael Mayer wasn't even the top 2 tight ends on his board. It was Dalton Kincaid and Sam Laporta. So Michael Mayer was down the board completely on his board. So while we're sitting here saying, oh, we want Michael Mayer, there wasn't even a scenario where we were going to get Michael Mayer. It would have to be like a crazy, insane, every tight end goes off the board first. So it's one of those things to keep in mind. I know we get very emotional about draft, very important, obviously. But sometimes, like, we might like a player or fall in love with a player. And the Bengals are just like, hey, we don't really like that guy. We don't think that guy's a good fit for us. And, it is what it is, right? So, tell me down below your thoughts, opinions. See you guys next one. Peace.